Alright, so we were mowing hay yesterday. We're cutting some late fourth crop off here. That's going to go into corn next year, so we can cut it. And the 826 here started spraying antifreeze out. So I think it's kind of hard to figure out where it's coming from because the fan's blowing antifreeze everywhere. And it doesn't take much to blow in your face and seem like it's leaking a lot. But so I ran it, and it seemed like it was coming from the front here somewhere, and I decided I couldn't find it just because the fan was blowing it everywhere. So I took the fan belt off and ran it a little bit. Of course, you got to watch the temp gauge real close when you're doing something like that. And it seemed to be leaking around this thermostat housing here. So I took there's a hose right here that goes from the top of the radiator down to the thermostat housing, which is right here. And it looked like it was leaking right around there. So I took the thermostat housing and the hose off and caught the antifreeze down here, and went and bought a new thermostat right here. Here's the old one. I think the thermostat was fine, but I'm already in there and they're cheap. It was like 50 bucks for everything. So I got a new, or less than that even. Got a new thermostat and a new gasket. So hopefully, I think it was the gasket that was the problem, but I guess we'll put her together and run it. It was only leaking once it got warmed up good. This housing was pretty dirty. We're gonna clean that up. It's pretty rusty. So we're gonna use the brush on the drill to clean that up so it doesn't leak. So here's the new thermostat, and it goes in with the springs down. So just like that. Make sure it sits down in that groove good so it doesn't leak like our last one was. And then put the gasket on that. So here's the part number for the thermostat and the part number for the gasket. So always make sure the surfaces are cleaned up before you put a gasket on. So I have this little scraper that's been abused that I use for a lot more things than I probably should, but it's real handy to have. So then I use just that wire brush on the drill to clean up this surface to make sure it was good and clean, so we don't have to tear this all back apart again because it's leaking. Alright, so we got everything just sitting loosely on there. Just another trick that I've learned is to just put a little dab of grease on the gasket to hold it in place for you. Otherwise, this one's pretty rigid, so it's not so bad. But if you put a little dab. Alright, so we got those bolts. Those bolts, they take a 9/16 wrench, and then we also have a swivel to get on the back side there. And we got them torqued down to good and tight, which if you don't speak German means good and tight. And now we put the hose on, so we're ready to fill it full of antifreeze and see if we found the leak. Otherwise, we'll figure it out from there.